Hey there folks, welcome to this video 3 in this Python Pygame series, building a pipes or flowy game. In the last video we built out our PipeGameplay class, the main object which is going to handle the game logic, and in there we also built in the insertNewPiece method. In this video I think we're going to build out the insertEndPiece, verify to check the endpiece is in place. I think we're also going to draw the game board to the screen because it looked a bit weird. Last time we never actually drew the board to the screen itself. So we just had the pipe pop up in the middle of nowhere. So I think in this video we'll also make sure we draw that board to the screen. Then there's a couple other methods we'll probably put in. That should take us a good 20-25 minutes. Let's see how far we go and let's get into it. All right, let's just close that. And let me just get this up for our brevity's sake, just so we have reference purposes. All right, so we're going to go into our pipe gameplay right here in our pipe gameplay and our init method, right below the insert start piece method where we call it. Right below that, we're going to call self.insertEndPiece. All right, so obviously we haven't created that method yet, so we're going to go ahead and create it now, and we're going to create it directly under the verify start method. So then I'm going to go with define. Oh my goodness, we're not going to be able to spell tonight. Define. Then we're going to go with insert end piece. All right, we're not going to pass it any arguments. Not necessary. Let's give it a little descriptor. Randomly select an end piece and insert it into the grid. Okay. Right. This function is fairly similar to our insert start piece method. The only difference is we're checking the end piece. We could actually do that. Sorry, while I'm looking, I'm thinking we could, okay. So I'm going to write it out as is, and then I think we're quickly going to refactor it at the same time because this insert end piece is very similar to the insert start piece methods. So let's write out the method first so we can just have a look at it. So it'll be end piece will be equal to our choice and of list, and then we're obviously going from end.keys, right? Choice list end.keys. So we're going to make a list of all the keys in the end dictionary. So here's the end dictionary. As if you remember, we have ending right, end left, end up, end down. Right, so there's a dictionary. So we're now going to make a list of those keys. Okay, and we're randomly going to select one from that list. Then we're going to have row and column is going to be equal to 0, 0. Valid start pos is going to be equal to false. We say while not valid start pos. So while valid start pos is equal to false. We say row and column is equal to rand int. You remember we selected a random integer between self.rows minus 1. So that's our total number of rows minus 1. And then rand int. Let me just move this across. Rand int from 0 and self.cols minus 1. All right. Then we're going to say valid start position is equal to self.verify end. Okay. End piece. We need the end piece. We need the self.grid. We need the grid which we pass to it. We need to pass the self.rows to it. And we need to pass self.columns to it. Okay. And then we also still need to pass it a row and we need to pass it a column. Okay. Oh, excuse me. Okay. So this verify end is a method that we need to create quickly. So let's go ahead and create it now. We're going to say define an underscore verify end. Right. Self is the first argument. Then we need to pass it the end piece. We're going to pass it the grid. We're going to pass it the rows, the columns, and the row and col. Right. And inside the verifyEnd method, we're going to perform a bunch of checks that if the checks are true, we're going to return false, and then the values.pos will remain false, and the loop will continue around again. The while loop will continue. So we're going to say if grid row col does not equal an empty space, we straight off the bat return false. No need to continue to do any more checks. We know that it's not an empty position. The next thing we need to do is we're going to say if row is equal to 0 and EndPiece, right, is equal to a down. We're going to return false as well. We're going to say aleph row is equal to rows minus 1 and EndPiece is equal to end up. Then we're going to return false again, where aleph col is equal to 0 and EndPiece is equal to e right. Then we must return false. Aleph col is equal to, come on, col is equal to columns minus 1, and EndPiece is actually equal to end left, right? Then we must return false too. All right, if it performs all those checks and none of them is true, then we say else. All right, and this is where we get a little bit further. We're going to do a few more checks. We're going to say, well, if row is less than rows minus 1, if grid row plus 1 col does not equal, then it must return false too. All right, so what we're doing in this little section of this method, right? So the first thing we're doing is we're checking, well, is the position chosen on the grid, is it on the border, right? So if it's on row 0, meaning if it's on the top line, and the EndPiece is E down, which basically means that the water needs to flow in a downwards position into it, then it's going to return false. So if I can explain it a little bit better, the pipe will be the ending point, the water will be flowing downwards into it. So if the EndPiece is on the top row, water will not be able to flow down into it, and therefore it would be an invalid position. So that's what this first 4 lines do in this check, or these lines do in this method. Once we've done that, now we're doing an additional check to make sure that the EndPiece is not directly next to the starting piece. So say now it was E down, it was on row 10, so basically cell 10. If the starting piece was in block 00, the game wouldn't be able to function because there's no way for you to be able to get pipes or water flowing into that EndPiece. So that's what this last check is doing. That's why we're going with, okay, if col is less than columns minus 1, right? And if grid row, if col is, okay, once we've got that, sorry, let me just loosen this up. Okay, if column is less than if col is less than columns minus 1, then if grid row col plus 1 does not equal an empty space, we must return false again. All right, then we're going to say, well, if col is greater than 0, okay, but if grid row col -1 does not equal an empty space, we must then return false once again. Then lastly, if row is greater than 0, if grid row minus 1 col does not equal an empty space, we must then return false again. And then that while loop, the game will then basically select 2 more random positions, and then it will re-perform this test once again. If none of these checks return true, if all of this method passes all through these checks and nothing happens, we must then return true because we have a valid row and column, and then thus the valid start position will be turned to true and the while loop will no longer continue. Okay, so once we've broken out of the while loop, we then need to include our piece and our ending piece into our self.pieces dictionary with the row and column as the key. Okay, and that's going to be equal to EndPiece, which again is an object that we have not created just yet. So let's go ahead and create that object. Just give me a second. Right, I'm back. Apologies for that. So what we're going to go ahead now is we're going to go ahead and create that EndPiece object. So we're going to come down to our classes just below the start piece class. I think it's fair enough to just create a new class and we're going to call it EndPiece. Right. Nope, we're not going to pass it. I'm just going to give it an init method. Nope. Init method. Right, and with the init method, we're going to give it a couple of arguments. We're going to give it the piece. So obviously, which ending piece did it randomly choose? We need to give it a row. We need to give it a column. We also need to give it the x offset, and we need to give it the y offset. If you'll remember, that is how the grid is spaced out onto the actual game screen. That's what the x and y offset is. Okay. So in our new class, EndPiece, we're going to have our self.piece will be equal to piece. We're going to have our self.row is equal to row, self.col is equal to col, column, what's going on there? Sorry, self.col is equal to column, right? Self.x position, x pos will be equal to the x offset plus self.col multiplied by cell size, right? And then self.y pos will be equal to the y offset plus self.row multiplied by cell size. Okay, then self.end will be equal to end. Okay. Then we just need to load an image for this object. We're going to call it self.image, and the image will be equal to end, our ending dictionary. Remember our end dictionary, e right, e left, e up, e down. Our end dictionary, self.piece. Okay, and if I have it right, load images, so it was returning a list. We want to get the very first image. Now you'll notice the difference between the end piece and the start piece. The start piece had a self.image index, which was set to 0, but the end piece, we're just hard coding it at a 0 straight up, no image index. The reason for that being is the image, the ending image, there's no water flow on it. So once the water reaches the ending pipe, that's it. There's no animation there involved at all. So we're just straight up pulling on the image itself. And it will probably never change. Okay, below self.image, we're going to call self.rect, and self.rect is going to be self.image.get rect, and we're going to give it the top left coordinates of the image is going to be self.xpos and self.ypos. Okay, and the last thing we're going to do is we're going to say self.active. No, we're not going to do that now. Forget about that for now. When we include the active things is when we start doing the game logic. I think it'll make more sense if we then put it in at that time. Okay, we're going to go ahead and we're going to create an update method for this class, for this object. There is nothing for this object to update, so we're just going to put in a pass. If you'll remember in our main game loop, where's our main game loop? game, we have update. We will be running an update on all the items within the self.pieces dictionary, and then it will get to the ending piece and there will be no update method and it will throw us an error. So we just create an update method and straightforward just say pass. Right. The last method we're going to create for this class, we're going to create a draw method, because as discussed, as just mentioned previously, in our game logic draw method, we are drawing each piece to the screen using each piece's draw method. So the window.lit self.image and self.rect. All right, I'm going to go back up to my game logic class with my insertEndPiece, self.pieces, row and column, row, column, self.endPiece. Let's just copy up these arguments quickly. All right, so we need a piece, so we need to say EndPiece. We need to say row. Row, we've got column, it's going to be col. X offset, we just need to put it as capital letters. Y offset, we need to change that to capital letters as well. And there we go, we created our ending piece. Once we've created our ending piece, give me 1 second, apologies for this. Oh, where are we? Come on. Is it in piece? Yes. There we go. We actually still need to pass it to the game grid. So self.grid row column is going to be equal to self.pieces, referring to this key for this item, dot piece. Then we've got our insert end piece. If we quickly run this, we should find an end piece on the screen, on the actual game screen itself. We have the starting piece. We don't have an end piece. Why don't we have an end piece? We are calling the insert end piece. Just give me 1 second. Okay, you should not be having this problem actually on your side at all. If you hit the run button, you should have it running correctly and you'll find the start and end piece on the screen. I was running the wrong main py file, therefore didn't matter what changes I would have made, I would never see the ending piece. But anyway, as you can see here, we have the start piece and we have the end piece on the grid, but we still have no game board. So let's go ahead and create the game board. Let's draw the game board to the screen quickly. We're going to do that by creating a method for it in our, where was it? So now draw method, in our gameplay asset. Let's just do it here, right just below the draw method, just above the draw method. Let's just do it there. So we're going to say define draw game board, and we need to pass it the window, of course. Okay, this one's straightforward. We're going to go with for row in range self.rows, for col in range self.cols, columns, right? I'm going to say if row modulus 2 is equal to 0. So basically every even number, type is going to be equal to dark. Okay. If col modulus is equal to 0, else light. Right. So if we're on the even row, okay, then the type will be dark if the column modulus 2, there needs to be a 2, is equal to 0, right? Else type will equal light if col modulus 2 is equal to 0, else it will be equal to dark. So basically, if we are on the even row, it will be dark on every even square. Otherwise, if we are on an odd row, for every column, it will be light for every even column square. All right. Once we've done that, we're then going to window.split from the board. Okay. Remember, our board dictionary is right at the bottom. The board is only a dark color and there's only a light color. Board type 0 because there's only one image in that list. We're going to go with x offset plus col multiplied by 64, y offset plus row multiplied by 64. Right, if I have that correct, okay, we just need to call that as well. We're going to call this method just above for piece and self.piece values. We're going to call it there. We're going to say self.drawGameBoard, and we need to pass it the window. Let's run this now quickly and see what we end up with. There we go. That's fantastic. So we have our game board on the screen. So basically you can see just a grid of squares. Our ending pipe and our starting pipe is on the game grid itself already. Okay. Right. We've gone and created that. If you'll remember, I spoke a little bit earlier about we have two methods that are basically very much the same. Actually, we have the insert. Let me just minimize this. Verify in. We have the insert end piece and we have our insert start piece. Let me just make this a bit more readable for all of us. Presentation mode. So our insert start piece and our insert end piece are actually very similar. The only differences we have is the dictionary that we use, where we select our pieces, the method where we check if it's a valid position or not, verify end and verify start, and then obviously the piece itself, the object creation. But even for that, the start piece, end piece. For the end piece, do we pass it a self? Maybe we should just include that self as well. End piece, self piece, game, just for the sake of having it. So we'll have self.game is equal to game. Right. So now even the creation of the start piece and the end piece is very much the same. There we just pass it self. There we go. So now we have our start piece self, start piece and end piece, row, col, x offset, y offset. So these two methods are like 90% the exact same. So I was thinking we could go ahead and just combine the two into one and just play around with the arguments that we pass it. So here we're going to pass it a start piece dict, right? And that's where we're going to go from here, start piece dict. And we're going to do the same. Let's just start piece dict. Then we're going to go, we need to pass it the method where we're going to check it. Verify position, that's what we're going to call it. There we're going to say verify position, excuse me. And then we're going to new object, right? And that's going to be this one here, new object. Okay, insert start piece. So now I need to go up to my game logic here, insert start piece. Start piece dictionary is going to be start, that dictionary. Verify position is going to be self._verify, verify start. But we don't want the brackets in there. We just want the name of the function that we're going to, or the method that we're going to use. And we're going to go with the new object. For this one is going to be start piece, if I have it right. Start piece. Where are we? There. Start piece. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and run this. It should run like normal. We should have two objects on the screen. We do. So that still seems to be running correctly. I will then want to actually say, do the exact same things. Start piece. But now here, the dictionary, I want it to be the end. All right. And then I want to say self.verify end. Right. But we don't pass the brackets. Because if you put the brackets there, then it runs the method in this method call. We don't want it. We only want it to run that method when it's actually called within the method. So you just do it like that, the actual name of it, right? And then we're going to say EndPiece. Okay, so this is both of this now is now calling the insert start piece. So we're not calling this insert end piece at all. I want to see if that's going to run, because then we've just saved ourselves a method. We have a problem. Verify end, missing one required positional argument column. Verify position, start piece, self.rows, columns. Okay, inside here, self. So the end piece and start piece. So there we've run into a bit of an issue. In line 116, all right there. Start piece. Oh, no, end piece, yes, that's the same. Grid. Oh, you see we're passing it a grid. Okay, so that might be an issue. Let's see how we can fix that. Okay, so I'm going to fix this bug. Just I'm going to remove this as an argument, the self.grid, in my valid.position for insert EndPiece. I'm going to remove that as one of the arguments that is required, this grid. All right, and verify end. And then in the method itself, wherever we're referring to the grid, we're just going to say self.grid. Wherever we see the grid, we're going to say self.grid. 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 Okay. We should run this now. We should have it running correctly. Hey, there we go. We've got our starting piece. We've got our ending piece drawn to the board. We can now go into our insertEndPiece method, and we can actually just remove that one as it is a unnecessary one now. Here we say insert start. We're going to say insert start pieces. Insert start pieces, insert start pieces. And there we go. So we've now created our grid. Okay, so we've just refactored our code a little bit to make it a bit easier to read. We've removed an unnecessary function. Let's just neaten up a little bit more here where it says start piece. Let's just say piece. Call it a piece. Let's just call it piece. Yeah. That's fantastic. Great. So I think the last thing we're going to do for this video is we're going to just create or add the random pieces to the screen, which is the list of the next pieces that are in the list. How can I explain? So as we go along in the game, there's a column of the 5 pieces, and which is the current piece that you're going to be using to play the game with. I think let's just do that. It's not going to take too long, and then we'll be able to close out this video. So we're going to go up here in our init method for PipeGameplay. Underneath myself.insertStartPieces, we're going to create a new attribute. We're going to say self.verify self.nextPieces. And we're going to use a little bit of list comprehension, and we're going to say, okay, we're going to open a list. We're going to start with choice, list pipes, right, which is our dictionary for the different pipes, dot keys. Okay, so we're now choosing a pipe, right, for underscore in range 6. All right, so what's happening there is we're creating a list of 6 of the regular pipes, randomly chosen. That's pretty straightforward. That's what we're doing. Okay. Then below that, we're going to say self.currentPiece is going to be equal to self.nextPieces.pop and the very first item in the list. Self.currentPiece is equal to self.nextPieces.pop with 0 as the index position of the list. So that's going to be our current piece. So now we've created a list of 6 random pipes, and then we've popped the very first image in that, or very first pipe in that list to be our current piece. Then we're going to go down to our draw method, and just below our draw method, we are going to create a small method just to draw our current and next pieces to the screen. So we're going to say define draw current next pieces to the screen. Okay, and we need to pass it the window, of course, always. All right. This is going to be straightforward. We're just going to have window.blit, right? And so we need to do a little bit of manipulation on this one. So we're going to say pygame.transform.scale, because we want to change the scale of our current piece. Pipes self.currentPiece. If you'll remember that we're only referring to the actual item name in the dictionary, the key name, not the actual image itself. So now we actually need to pull out that current piece image. Okay, we need to scale it up. Just basically doubling its size, right? And then we need its position. The position is going to be x offset minus 128 and 64. Okay, close those 2 brackets. Then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to draw a little white rectangle around it. We're going to say pygame.draw.rect. Draw it to the window. It's going to be white, and the position is going to be x offset minus 128. 64, right? And then the width will be 128 and the height will be 128. All right, and the squares borders will be the size of 1. Okay, once we've done that, cool. Then we're going to go for num item in enumerate self.nextPieces. So we actually need to draw those random list of pieces that we've just created. We still need to draw them to the screen. So we're going to go window.blit, okay, pipes item, right, and it's going to be positioned at x offset minus 96, y offset plus 194, plus it's going to be the 64, the size of each image, times num in this for loop. Then we will just return. Okay, we're going to put this, we're going to draw this, we're going to draw it below. It doesn't matter where we draw it, we can draw it here. We're going to say self.drawCurrentNextPieces, and we have to pass it the window. Alright, so we should run this, we should not have any errors, and we have an error. Argument 1 must be pygame.surface.surface, not list. Where are we? Pygame.transform.scale pipe. So that is line 160. Pygame.transform.scale. Right? Pipes self.currentPiece. Oh, yeah, that has to be a 0. Remember, we're returning a list when we load images, so we need to refer to the first item in the list. Okay, we're still having a list. What's going on there? Line 163. Same problem. We need to refer to the first item in that list, even though there's only one item in the list. Oh, well, that worked better than expected. So as you can see, we have our starting pipe, we have our ending pipe, we have our current piece, and we have the next 5 pipes in our list, which were randomly generated when we started the game. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're going to end this video right here. Thank you for following along. I hope you found it helpful. I hope you've enjoyed it. I apologize for doing the refactoring in the middle of a video, but oftentimes while I'm coding and I will think of a better way of doing things. Trust me, I've gone through this code many times before I've decided to start doing the video on it. But either way, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you understand the reasoning behind some of it. And sometimes it's just more helpful to go through it with somebody, just to help you understand some of the things that get done. I know for a long time I struggled with passing functions as a name argument within another function, and I've recently started using it, and I'll tell you it's immensely helpful. Great, thanks so much for following this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like this video, if you want to see more of this kind of content, please subscribe to my channel, hit the like button, comment down below any tips and suggestions you might have. Once again, thanks for joining me. See you guys in the next video. Cheers for now.